Welcome to the ATP Project. You're with your hosts, Matt and Steve, and Jeff's not here again.
What disease has he got this week?
He's getting his gut right, and he's banned from the room.
He's on
day 4 again.
Oh,
Smells like day 4 again.
Smells like day 4.
We'll expand a little bit more on what that means throughout the episode. But today's episode is the process of elimination. We've been having a bit of fun trying to work out what to name it, because the podcast today we're talking about fibre and how fibre controls constipation and diarrhea, or could cause constipation or diarrhea. We're going to talk about the different ways of using fibre, how much is too much, how much is not enough. Hopefully at the end of the episode today, you'll be able to take a good look at your poo and yourself and self-diagnose.
Yes.
You can take some time when you're sitting on the throne and reflect a little bit on your behaviour, and kind of imagine the things that might be going on inside you. So that way then you can start to take some action and change your diet or change your supplementation or whatever you need to do to get your shit together.
Exactly, that's it. And so the other titles we came up with, which we were toying around with, were quite interesting, weren't they, mate? You've got a list of them there?
Yeah, well, one of them was know your shit, but we struggled with grammar, so we kind of weren't sure if we were saying know your shit or know you are shit.
Yes, there's that little apostrophe thing that you got to put in there to make sure it's right. And what was the other one we came up with?
And fecal facts you wanted.
Yeah, that
was.
But
Brooko was the one that came up with process of elimination, which I think is excellent, because we're talking about how to literally how to get your shit together and create a proper stool. And we're going to talk about how the fibre kind of is involved in that, and also the other things that affect your motility. So we're going to talk about muscle spasms through the bowel. We're going to talk about mucus. We're going to talk about the bowel as a muscle and its ability to function effectively as a muscle. And it's like any muscles, it can get fatigued, it can be weak, it can have cramps, it can have adhesions and injuries that can actually interfere with its form and technique.
Yes.
So all of those sort of things you need to be aware of, so you can have a look at the poops that's coming out and imagine what's happening between
pooping and not.
Yeah.
And of course, to examine your poop, you have to have some objective measure, don't you?
Yeah.
And we've got an objective measure. I don't know if you should put that up to the camera.
What, you're talking about my samples I brought in?
Yeah, do you want to bring them out?
Yeah, no, I've got the Tupperware container here, but we'll see what happens. So what we're looking at the moment is the Bristol Stool chart. And the Bristol Stool chart is an actual photographic, or it's a descriptive chart. It's a way of us. It's a world recognised chart. It's the one they use in the medical papers and that sort of stuff when describing your turds and stuff. So what you basically, I don't know how we're going to. I mean, I could say poop and feces and that all day, but I mean, I've already sworn in the intro, so I think we're fine.
It's not going to end well, is it? With all the swear words.
Well, it can end well, Steve. That's what the purpose of the podcast is. It can end well and in good form and great colour.
So type 1 on the Bristol food chart, that's not ending well, is it?
No, that's actually ending multiple times usually. So what you'll find, what we're going to show you quickly through the Bristol Stool chart, we're going to provide this paper and this chart for you guys to have a look at, and you can assess your stools and see where you are on the chart. Often we get people commenting or contacting us saying that their bowel patterns have changed. So for example, we've just released a new product, Gut Right, and what the Gut Right is it's a high dose polyphenol product which controls the ratios of gut bugs. In the early phases, we're encouraging people to do a 10-day detox, which is like not even a detox, I hate using that word actually, but it's a 10-day higher dose, more of a killing spree, because most people have too many gut bugs, too many excessive firmicutes and that sort of stuff in particular, and yeasts and fungi and mold and parasites. So what we do is high doses for 10 days to change that gut environment, create a bit of a die-off, and kill off a lot of the bad bugs. And then what we do is we follow it and just go down to a lower dose, maintenance dose, So typically what happens is you go 1 teaspoon 3 times a day, 1 tub will last you 10 days. At the end of that, you go down to 1 teaspoon a day, and then each tub will last you a month, and we can maintain it.
Yeah.
But on the basis of that, we've had a lot of feedback of people coming back saying, my bowel patterns have changed. I'm either going more often or I'm going less often. And the common question that we get with that is, do I add more fibre? Do I need more fibre? Or have I added too? No one ever asks, have I added too much fibre? Actually, no one ever asks, have I got too much fibre? But people are contacting us constantly saying, I'm constipated. Should I add more fibre? Now, what I've found with the fibre, so if we talk about fibre, what is fibre doing to the stools? Because I know for a fact some people believe that to be regular, you need more fibre. But I also understand on a mechanical nature, of the production of a turd, the creation of a poop. What you're finding is you get this watery, sloppy matter running through the digestive tract, start with chyme from the stomach and then through the small intestine. It's all water, swishy water, and that's where doing the large intestine. The reason why it sits in that large intestine for like 8 or 10 hours is to take a lot of that water out and leave the fibre, creating a proper turd.
Yeah.
And so basically fibre absorbs moisture and fibre bulks out the stools. Fibre dries out the poo.
It does, yeah. There's two types of fibre, soluble, insoluble fibre. The soluble fibre breaks down, increases the amount of fecal matter coming out. So it's important to know that it grows the bugs.
Which one's that? Soluble.
Soluble fibre. And put very simply, the insoluble fibre, like you get from wheat fibre, helps you go by creating an irritation to the gut mucosa and irritates it, because wheat's a pretty weird food for the human body to eat. And it causes mucus secretions, which makes you go more regular. So I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing.
Well, it's a really weird one. So what we're saying is the insoluble fibre, that's our roughage. That's our, structurally they are large, long chains of sugar that we can't digest.
Correct.
And what they do is they absorb moisture from the mucosa.
Yep.
So they absorb moisture, and some of them have a texture that makes like a slimy mucus.
Yeah.
Others are a bit more abrasive and irritating.
Yeah.
You could almost imagine like, they do them exfoliating soaps.
Yes.
And the way they do exfoliating soap, you were responsible for that, weren't you?
Soap, you used to make soap.
You used to
chemist.
put oats in soap, didn't you?
We had an oatmeal soap, yeah.
Yeah. So they put these roughage in the soaps as an exfoliator for our skin to break up the dead skin and that sort of stuff. But how is it different in your gut? It's the same process, isn't it?
It is. And they did a study showing that they used, believe it or not, plastics in people. They gave them plastics.
Is that a McDonald's study? Do you remember that?
No, I don't remember plastics in McDonald's.
Oh, no, there was a study. So I was at a herbal, it would have been mid-90s, National Herbalist Association seminar.
Yeah, NHAA,
the NHAA seminar. And we actually had a scientist that was presenting a study on fibre. Yes. And that's I'm saying, I forgot all about this. It's really bloody funny because what the guy did is they went and showed that as a control they used plastic. So what they did is, for a definition of fibre, is 100% of what goes in one end must come out the other end. Yeah. And they therefore decided that plastic was the ultimate fibre to use as a control, because it goes in one end, out the other end. They went then and compared all of these other things to this control, this plastic. I'm talking like plant, brands and oatmeals, all sorts of bits and pieces they put into their bread rolls in the McDonald's study to compare it to plastic. Right. At the end of it, of course, plastic was the only one that had 100% in one end, 100% out the other end. Yeah. The others had some breakdown and some other bits and pieces disappear. So at the end of the study, the conclusion was plastic was better. Well, it wasn't. I mean, the plastic was a control. But at the end of the study, McDonald's suggested that because they have a moral responsibility as they feed more of the world than anyone else, that they have moral responsibility to make sure they have the best fibre in their products, and they suggested adding plastic.
Incredible.
And then the best bit was, this is a National Herbalist Association. After the guy presented it, he then presented all that and then said, any questions? And every hand went up like, you seriously not talking about adding plastic into the product? Like, out of all the other herbs and spices you tested, you got to add plastic. And the bloke said, well, it looks the best. Can you argue with that?
Well, it does as far as fibre is concerned. Hopefully, like even wheat has all sorts of other polyphenols and all sorts of other things in the germ which has benefit, which is why wheat germ is anti-carcinogenic for the colon despite it being irritating. So it's got some other goodies in it. So there's some interesting stuff around that.
So what are some examples, Steve, of insoluble fibre, of roughage?
Oh, wheat bran is the classic one.
Wheat bran, oat bran, psyllium husk.
Psyllium husks, that's got soluble and insoluble. A lot of them have both, oats have both. Yeah. But the bran part is the insoluble stuff that the human body can't digest.
Yep.
Our appendix is no longer useful, so we can't digest those sorts of fibres.
Because that used to have like rocks and stuff in it, didn't it, to grind it up? Is that what other animals have?
No, other animals have a larger cecum.
And
their appendix actually works.
We've
evolved to to not use our appendix anymore because you know we're up the food chain a bit more. So we can have our appendix removed and not have any adverse effects.
Works like a little nursery for your microbiome, for your large intestine, though. Yeah,
which is good and bad. And 500
depends
people
what's there.
Yeah,
exactly.
If you get a bad infection and you get appendicitis, and then if it bursts, you get septicemia, and then you get death.
Yeah, but if you've got a really healthy microbiome, then it works like a little nursery for the future bugs.
Absolutely, it's like our tailbone. It's a has-been of our earlier ancestry.
Yeah, it's handy though now.
Yeah.
Otherwise, I'll slip off my chair.
Off the chair,
So basically, when we're looking at this, so the actual process of adding fibre to your stool. So if you're constipated, this is a common question that I get. So people think, okay, I'm constipated. Now, what that means something different in so many different people. For example, I've had ladies, a particular lady I'm thinking of right at the moment, they used to come to my clinic that used to be regular every day. Okay, so every day she went to the toilet. The way she described it didn't ever sound complete, meaning that she didn't ever feel like she was empty. We sent her in for colonic irrigation. They got 8 kilos of poo out of her guts. Which fills up a 10-litre bucket, which is disgusting. I don't know why I keep visualising this bucket of poo.
Imagine losing 8 kilos in one afternoon.
That'd be handy.
Yeah.
Handy, especially if you could give that 8 kilos to someone that you don't like.
Don't want to go. When I got on the gut ride, I lost a couple of kilos, I'll tell you. It was horrendous.
Oh, yeah. I think someone found it.
Yeah.
No. Hey, so...
all right, do you want me to give you the standard
But
definitions?
hang on a sec. So this is the thing. What I would need people to understand is... You need to look at your poo.
Yep.
Because if you tell me you're constipated, I'm going to ask all sorts of questions. Because if you have a look at this Bristol stool chart, type 1, they're your little kangaroo poos. So here's Steve-O's showing us an example. But type 1 are your little kangaroo poos. They're the dry, hard pellets.
Yes.
They are full of fibre.
Yeah.
Okay. That's why kangaroo poos are that dry. They're just basically all fibre and all the moisture's gone. So if you add more fibre into there and not enough water, then you are going to have drier, harder stools. But if you go down to the other end of the chart where you're looking at number 5, 6 and 7s, they can also create constipation because you don't have enough of a stool consistency or texture for your muscles to effectively gather it all up and push it all out. So you can have incomplete stools. You can be needing to go all the time and just pumping out a little bit, especially if you're looking at the really clay form stools. So if you see some people, they get no fibre into the high protein, high fat diet, they get these very tacky, sticky stools. And it's very hard to push those out because as your muscles contract to push it out, there's no bulking stool, and it's like clay; it'll squeeze in all different directions.
Like a Dairy Queen, those sort of, I hate to say it, those ice creams.
Dairy Queen, what are they ladies that milk cows? I don't.
What Dairy Queen? What do they call them?
What does a Dairy Queen look like?
The thing where you pull a lever and you get the ice cream.
Oh yeah. Oh, Mr. Whippy Poos.
Yeah,
that sort of thing. I actually thought you meant like a dairy lady, like that you know what her poo looks like. Udders, that's a bit strange.
Yeah, very strange. So that'd be like a type 4 in the Bristol.
Yeah. So if you go down to type 5, 6 and 7 on the Bristol stool chart where we're looking at like kind of messed up poo that haven't got your shit together, in those instances, some people might call that, some people they might get alternating constipation diarrhea.
Yeah.
Because if you can't get that stuff out, your body will flush it out.
Yes.
And so in those sort of situations where they got the softer, wetter stools, then they need the insoluble fibre to get their shit together to form a proper stool, because you've got to realise the muscle bowel, but I'm talking to other people, that the muscle has to push against something. So you're looking at your bowel muscle, it's got this wave, it's got to push against something, a bit of structure to actually push it out the other end. Otherwise, it just kind of squashes it.
Absolutely. It's called peristalsis, if you want to Google that term.
Yeah. And you get like these waves of peristalsis every 8 hours, which is why we tell people to take in the gut right. We want to do it 3 times a day so we can get every 8 hours, we can get a wave of peristalsis full of our polyphenols. So if you're one of those people that's got a dry, hard stool and you need extra fibre, that will make it worse.
It would.
If you've got the softer, looser, wet stools, we can take the fibre, get your shit together, forms a proper turd that the muscles can actually push on and it can actually leave in one go with less wiping. And you can have a look at things like how many times you have to wipe. Like how much wiping there is tells you how much fibre you got.
Yeah, you're going to use the wipe chart there or not?
Yeah, we got a wipe chart, but that talks about 0 wipes, the perfect poop, or did you really poop?
Yeah.
The 1 to 3 wipes is just enough, no more. The 4 to 5 wipes is a little bit too much. 6 to 7 wipes is excessive. That's getting out of control. 8 or 9, that'll clog the toilet. That's true. 10 wipes, it's on your hands. and 10 plus wipes just take a shower.
Yeah.
Is that a legitimate chart, or did you make that up, Steve?
I just found one with a bit of comedy in it, because we're talking about fecal matter. But it's got a slight element of truth there. But you remember, constipation can be two things. For example, one person may be constipated because they might have, say, a Bristol 2 or 3, which is semi-normal, but they may only go once or twice a week.
Yes.
Less than 3 times a week is considered constipation.
Okay, cool.
So, you could have a Bristol 2. Now we're all familiar with like a normal poo, but you only go twice a week. That's considered constipation. Or you could go once a day with those hard, dry, pellety number 1s. Yeah. And that's considered constipation too. So there's a bit of
the texture, textures.
There's two factors.
So a lot of it's whether it's a complete void or not, hey? Yeah. Like it goes back to, a lot of it's subjective as well.
Of course.
So if all of a sudden your poop's changed, okay, you've gone from your normal brown sharks that you're doing every day, no problem, to these like kangaroo poo pellets. Yeah. Why would that happen?
Well, a couple of things. Firstly, antibiotics is the most common one. That causes diarrhea and constipation. Yeah. Because you can't solubilize the soluble fibre because you've killed the bacteria that does that. Yep. So you can't really form a stool because it's only left down to the bits of fibre. So there's no sort of less bacteria and less soluble fibre that's being used. Yep. So your stools you can either get massive diarrhea, which is very common, or you can get massive constipation.
So with the soluble fibres then, so these are the fibres that
break down.
They break down, they dissolve in water.
Yes,
is that
they're
why they're
soluble in water.
So, and then
soluble in your gut.
Soluble in the gut, and that means that they're capable of being fermented by the gut bugs. Yeah. And when you ferment those fibre, that fibre doesn't become part of your poop then, does it? It's kind of broken down and gone.
It's used for all sorts of things.
But it's not creating a structural framework that makes a nice
It feeds the bacteria that gives you more turd. But it doesn't frame it. That's the difference between soluble fibre. And soluble fibres break down into propionic acid, valeric acid, acetic acid, those sorts of things.
And they're all good?
Chain fatty acid. Yeah, in the right amounts they are. It's a good loaded question. Butyrate's classic anti-cancer sort of short-chain fatty acid. Mm-hmm. Propionic acid.
But if you have too much butyrate, it screws your Krebs cycle.
Yes, it stuffs you up.
Same with propionic acid. Same with all of them, because these short-chain fatty acids, if we have a look at fatty acids, that's the key word there. They can actually be incorporated into the Krebs cycle. They're used as fuel, okay? So what we're saying here is, imagine your gut wall as a muscle. Every other muscle in your body gets its blood supply delivering all of its nutrients. All the energy is coming from the blood supply, and all the vitamins and minerals, everything it needs is coming via the blood to the muscle. In your bowel, because the muscles in your skeletal muscles get it via your bloodstream gets it from your gut. So for your gut wall, why the hell they don't get it from your bloodstream? So your gut wall gets all of its fuel directly from your gut contents.
Yes.
So of course your typical macros are part of that. Mm-hmm. Your carbs and sugars and fats and that sort of stuff that your Krebs cycle, your active transport pumps can use to do their job.
Yes.
But short-chain fatty acids are extremely important for the muscle, the bowel muscle to work. Otherwise it can't. Hey.
Exactly. And the butyric acid is the great fuel for the gut. This is what we'll say. Now, butyric acid is found in certain foods too, like butter. That's where the name comes from.
Yeah,
so
right.
it's a saturated. Yeah, it's a saturated fat. A but means 4 carbons.
Yeah.
Prop means 3.
Yep.
So, there's all these sorts of acetic acid has 2 carbons.
Yeah,
so this is, but they're saturated fats.
Yep.
So this is why I always found it weird that everyone hated saturated fat, yet you eat an apple and you make loads of it in your gut.
Yeah.
And so very, very weird. Terrible science that when we demonize.
So people say that oil's cholesterol free. So who cares? Your body's going to make cholesterol out of that.
Well, of course, 80% of the cholesterol in your body's made in your liver anyway. And that's what those drugs do to inhibit it, all the statin drugs.
Yeah, it's crazy.
So it's made in your liver, and weirdly, the bad cholesterol is made in your liver, the LDL cholesterol. So, because you've got to remember, cholesterol is used by the body. And so the way it's transported in the body is via protein bound with lipid, or LDL, low-density lipoprotein. So it's taken to the tissues to be used to make hormones, etc. So LDL is the cholesterol made in the liver.
Yeah,
so
right.
it's not a bad thing. Without it, you'll die.
And one of the ways that fibre actually, while we're talking about fibre, and we've kind of started talking about cholesterol, fibre significantly reduces cholesterol through those short-chain fatty acid production and its ability to control the liver. Yeah. Plus, some fibres also contain sterol, if you listen to that word, cholesterol,
Yes.
and then other sterols
Yes.
resemble cholesterol and even compete. And another word for sterols are sterone. And you
Yep.
see the Google sterones.
Yes.
Yeah, so you see all these different sterols and sterones that are often found part of fibre that can compete with the cholesterol for absorption and trick the body into thinking you've got too much anyway.
Like beta-cytosterol is the classic one. That's the one. And they put that in margarines to stop the cholesterol being absorbed from margarine, even though there's no cholesterol in margarine.
Yeah.
Very terrible marketing.
It's weird.
Well,
anyway.
people fall for it.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but
so-
it's supposed to, yeah. We'll get back onto
Yeah,
the
that
fibre. We'll
fibre,
get our shit together, Steve. We're going to
Well,
get back on
fibre
track.
also, when your liver makes bile, the
Yeah.
brown stuff, that's what makes your poos brown, by the way.
Yeah.
That has cholesterol in it. That goes into your colon or into your
Yep.
small intestine, duodenum, and that the fibre binds that up and takes that out. So fibre is a detoxifying agent
Yeah.
too. And
Yeah.
I hate that word, but that's exactly what it
Does
does.
it binds and aids
Binds
the
it.
process of elimination.
Exactly, yeah.
And so basically what we've said so far is when you get these dry, hard stools,
Yeah.
most people would say, I'm constipated, I need to take more fibre. And what we've found is with our gut right, what we're trying to teach people to do as part of their initial die-off, we're teaching people to avoid the sugars, trying to not get too much sugar into the large intestine. In the process, we're actually telling a lot of people in the short term to avoid a lot of complex carbs. And a lot of those complex carbs was where they were getting their fibre.
Yes.
And so when they take those complex carbs out, they're like, oh no, I'm constipated because I've taken out these complex carbs, and in my mind, I'm thinking my only fibre was coming from those complex carbs.
Yes.
But that's not the case. I mean, we get lots of fibre from the nuts, the seeds, the fruits, the vegetables, and all those sort of things will provide adequate fibre. So we're going to provide some information as part of an article for people to go through and have a look at what fibre looks like, and
Yeah.
they can have a look at their diet and review and see if they are maybe having too much fibre or too little fibre, or if their fibre has changed.
Yeah.
But do you know what the most common cause of constipation when you're doing these sort of things is?
What is?
Most of these people have gone through a phase of alternating constipation and diarrhea.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
most of these people are basically slightly clogged until they get inflammation. So what you'll find is your body, your immune system, it will actually create flushing reactions if you get an overdose or an overexposure to microbes or over an exposure to protein that you might react to, glutens or whatever.
Yeah.
And then we've got an allergic aspect of our immune system that reacts to foods and pollens and certain microbes and parasites and those things. They manifest their defense reaction by creating mucus.
Of course
Okay,
they do.
so what happens is these things are flushing. They're constantly creating a flushing reaction. That layer of mucus, and that flushing reaction creates a leaky gut wall.
Yes.
And that's what causes a lot of these problems, which is why they go for one of these, like a gut cleansing sort of product, because they know their guts are causing all sorts of inflammatory and immune and brain problems. When they then start treating it and take away that inflammation, their stools dry out.
Yeah.
And you can get constipated. Now,
Yes.
in that instance, if you've got one of those people that had a history of alternating constipation, diarrhea, tend to have slimier stools in the past, you're either clogged or you're going too much, and then all of a sudden you're clogged up. What you need to do is realise that you've lost that mucus, and you
Yes.
need to lubricate those stools.
Yes.
So the way to lubricate a stool, there's a whole heap of things called lubricating laxatives and that sort of stuff. But typically what they are, they're mucilaginous compounds, and you can Google mucilaginous herbs and it'll give you a big long list. But linseed meal is a common. A lot of nut meals actually have a lubricating fibre because they give you that extra oil and all that sort of stuff. Slippery elmbark is one of my favourite ones. Slippery elmbark creates that irritation. You could do what they used to do for ulcerative colitis,
What was that?
take up smoking.
Yes, that's right.
Because
Crohn's disease, that was a classic treatment.
Because
for it.
and that's a classic. That's a good example of a reflex. For example, so what that basically was in people that had Crohn's disease and ulcerative colitis, they were deficient in mucus in their lower bowel, and that deficiency of mucus created alternating constipation, diarrhea, and that sort of stuff. So typically constipation until they get it bad enough, and they'll get a massive flushing reaction. So what they worked out with a camel a day is if you can smoke cigarettes and irritate your airways by reflex, because all your mucous membranes are linked,
Connected, yeah.
you'll get slimy poop.
Absolutely. And there's that famous paper I sent you through yesterday, the article showing that if you had a soluble fibre diet, it actually helps with your asthma.
Yeah, so through reflex. So
Yes.
if you get a dry airways and that's the stuff the opposite, so you irritate the membranes in the lower bowel to make some mucus with insoluble or soluble?
Insoluble fibre makes mucus in the gut.
There you go. So what Steve's saying there, so if I irritate your airways with cigarettes, we can make you poop more.
Exactly.
But if we can actually get that insoluble fibre irritating your membranes through reflex, it'll also create mucus through your airways and protect from that dry out.
And consequently, if you want to dry your mucus up, like people used to say to me, oh, yeah, wheat's a mucus-forming food. And I'd kind of look at them and go, and it's true. I mean, but it's funny how the evidence from people, when they go, well, when I drink milk's another one, I get mucus. And it's like, well, that's allergies. No, it's a reflex from the mucus membrane.
The irritation.
So there's evidence in that. I used to sort of question it, but now I've seen the evidence on it and the mechanisms, and it's really interesting.
Yeah.
And soluble fibre for treating asthma. I mean,
that's cool, eh?
In my day, you wouldn't have even considered that because you had asthma herbs, and I don't know if they addressed the cause of it, but
probably irritated. Probably irritate the membrane. That might be how they do it too.
Well, they used to help people, but knowing that is a great way to do it. I've also got charts too in the notes that is going to be on the website, showing how much fibre you should take, and there's some scary figures in there too. But basically, for guys, it's 30, but because women are less important, they get 25 a day.
Yeah.
I don't know why. Don't ask me.
Until they're pregnant and then they're important again.
Well, until they're pregnant, and then they have to have 8 servings of grains a day.
That was the one thing that spun me out. It went through saying this is how you do fibre. When you're pregnant and breastfeeding, we need you to have 8 serves.
8 serves,
which is like 1,000 calories or something, isn't it?
1,000 calories of grains a day. Which is absolutely horrendous. Because you got to remember,
and they don't even specify with the grains.
8.5 if you're breastfeeding, So that's grains. So 8.5 serves. So the scary thing about that is that the women, and I don't know if this is off topic, but women are often prone to gestational diabetes because the placenta releases a hormone that causes insulin resistance. And so if you give them 8 serves of grains a day.
With all that, they got it.
And they're usually less active, usually. Yeah. And they're usually more stressed, and they've got all these things counting against them. So this theoretical chart that you've got to have all this cereal fibre is absolutely horrendous.
Yeah, that's weird, man. So we'll show you that. We'll show you what is fibre, but just have a look at what you're eating and if you've changed your diet. But more importantly, have a look at your poo, and I'll teach you how to tweak it. Tweak your poo, Steve.
Do you want to know what 30 grams of fibre looks like?
Yes. Actually, this is excellent. Do tell us.
Well, I'm going to show you.
Oh,
there you go.
But tell me as well.
I will tell you. There's certain foods here which can give you certain amounts of fibre per day, and it depends on how you want to get them. Now, there's grain ones there. There's slices of bread and all this sort of stuff.
I'll go for the asparagus.
Asparagus, absolutely. So
2 spears of asparagus will give you 30 grams.
No, all of this together gives you 30. The whole table gives you 30. So, I agree with you. I'd go for the asparagus because only 2 spears gives you about 5 grams. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So, otherwise, you'll have to eat 2 slices of sourdough spelt bread. So, there's so many more calories getting that bread compared to the asparagus.
Oh, my gosh. I'm just looking at this list. So, basically, so what they're saying, Steve-O, for us to get the 30 grams of fibre.
You have to eat all of that.
So, you half a cup of eggplant, 2 spears of asparagus, 12 beans, half a cup of caspicum, 1 medium carrot, a cup of kale, a banana, strawberries, oats, bread, oats, rice, almonds, chickpeas.
Yeah. So, I'd be very cautious about getting all your fibre.
You should add up those calories. That'd be interesting to see what that actually carbohydrate thing is. So basically what we're looking at is if you get these dry, hard poop stools, we need to lubricate those stools. The best way to lubricate them is to use a combination of soluble and insoluble fibre, which will give you all the foods that do that. You can always cheat with something like a slippery elm bark. I really like slippery elm bark. Now, the reason why you don't add, when I made a gut product, I don't go and make it 10 grams of fibre or 5 grams of fibre per serve because there are more people that I find are constipated because of excessive fibre consumption than people that are constipated because of inadequate fibre.
Exactly.
And so what we want to do is we want to change the consistency of stools. You want to lubricate it and you want to fluff it up and you want to hold lots of water into it. Slippery elm bark, nut meals, almond meals, LSA, linseed, those sort of things. All those sort of things are very good for doing that. You can add extra water with these things called osmotic laxatives, or create osmotic diarrhea. So, for example, there's so many things you could do for that. Like that's where people use Epsom salts and those sort of stuff to try to drag it in. But you could use another magnesium. You could use extra high doses of a magnesium citrate or anything like that.
Sulfate, even the worst.
Yeah, sulfate. Yeah. So basically, any overdose of a water-soluble vitamin is going to add water to your poop.
Yes.
Problem is it does create a little bit of leaky gut wall in the process of that. You've actually got to open up the gut wall to release that water in for the osmotic diarrhea one. So that's things like overdosing on vitamin C, overdosing magnesium. Those sort of things will add extra water, and that's Epsom salts is just a terrible form of magnesium. Doesn't get absorbed. So that's why the water rushes in.
Epsom salts is used in hospitals because they give it IV for people with super hypertension or high blood pressure. Because you can, if you IV, obviously it's absorbed. Should we tell people what osmosis is, or do
it's a movement of water. So you do that, Steve.
It's a movement of water from a high concentration to a low concentration. So you've got salts in your body of about 1%, and in your bowel it's usually about the same. So if you increase the concentration of salt in your bowel,
water rushes in.
Water rushes in because of osmosis. So that's what we're talking about with osmosis. And there's all sorts of examples of that. Like if you go in the salt water and you dehydrate your skin, it all goes wrinkly. Have you ever done that?
Yeah.
That's osmosis coming out of your body instead of your bowel. So,
I thought it'd make it easier to pick up fish.
Yeah, it does. That's it.
But that's the other. So other ways of adding moisture into a kangaroo poo looking stool is with other irritants. So things like aloe vera juice. Now, if you want to use like an aloe vera juice or something to it, the compound in aloe vera that works as a laxative is a iridoid glycoside. It's extremely bitter. So unless your aloe vera juice tastes horrendous, it probably doesn't have the laxative component in it. And in that instance, it's a good source of chlorophyll and good for your tummy, but it's not going to have that flushing reaction.
And possibly full of sugar, so be aware of that too.
So aloe vera juice, if you get that's how senna, cascara, castor oil, those sort of things all work by irritating the membrane, and that creates a production of mucus, which will lubricate your stool. Even those little microlax and things you stick up your date to irritate the mucosa just to soften that last plug, they'll all help you go. But they're all irritants. They all contribute to gut wall. They all create an inflammatory reaction, which we're trying to fix. So I would rather see people use a slippery ombarks and things like that.
Much better. They use senna in hospitals and those sorts of things for chronic constipation. And they
cause a lot of griping pain and all sorts of, because of that irritation. They freak the body out and try to do it. So if you've got one of those, if you've got your stool, if your poops are coming out like the little kangaroo poos as well, often what people want to do as well, especially while we're doing this gut cleanse, you tend to stink a bit and you get a lot of toxic rubbish. So people were looking for things to absorb more of that toxic load. And that's when we can use bentonite clay. The Australian bentonite clay is the best in the world. But we can use the bentonite clay, you can use the charcoal. But just be aware that things like charcoal and clay, they're not going to improve the consistency of your stool. They're just going to mop up the stench and the toxins and hold them in there. So whenever you use those things, it's a good idea to combine them with a bit of fibres and that sort of stuff to get everything moving a little bit better.
You've got to. And of course, fibres come from natural foods. And just be aware that the insoluble fibres like wheat bran, we're not having a go at it, but it does stimulate mucus production. Now, I better explain the mucus thing because, when you've got an allergy, like you've got runny nose, this is all the same sort of thing. And inside your cells of your mucous membranes, you've got things called mast cells. And what happens is when when you get an IgE antibody binding to the mast cell, it degranulates or breaks apart, releases a chemical called histamine. So a lot of people may have heard of antihistamines stopping their runny nose. Well, that's how it works. It stops histamine release. And the histamine causes the leakage of this fluid out of the cells and out of the body, and that's your mucus. So this is where antihistamines come in. Now, you've got to be careful with antihistamines because in the olden days especially, used to get into the brain and cause sedation. Now they've got the non-drowsy formulas because histamine is a chemical that keeps you alert and awake too.
Yeah, that's right.
So a lot of people take this in fact, nowadays the first generation antihistamines are now marketed at your pharmacy as sleeping tablets.
Yeah, right. For kids.
For Nergan and those sort of old things, So they're quite, have terrible side effects. We're all about trying to get to the cause of the mucus.
Yeah, exactly.
Not about like fixing a chemical messenger somewhere down the track.
Yeah. So we got to, and that's the good point. I'm glad you mentioned it because when you do these changing, when you're totally changing your gut flora, microbiome over, there is a phase of changing of short-chain fatty acids. There's a phase where your bowels are changing. So there's a little phase where you might have to do a little bit extra to make sure that this stuff is eliminating from your body just until your body organises itself. The microbiome changes back to the right form that provides the muscles that might have been weak. You don't know how long you've had these weak gut muscles and you've been relying purely on mucus to stay regular.
Yeah.
And you take that mucus away, you got a whole heap of rebuilding to do.
Exactly.
So we got to go through and do that. Another thing to look for is not necessarily kangaroo poos, but if you're getting these poops that come out and they look flattened or squashed, you can see poops that come out like a ribbon. It might even, not always the whole bit. Maybe there's one flat edge and stuff like that. I mean, I'd spend a lot of time looking at poop, but with that, you got to imagine in your sigmoid colon, we got in the last kink of your bowel. The last kink of your bowel is designed so we can
I've got a kinky bowel.
You do have a kinky bowel. It goes with your shoes.
Yes.
So we have. So when I'm sitting here, I'm surprisingly, I'm not actually having to clench and work to not poop myself. But then I'll go and sit in the exactly same position of this and use a toilet. Okay, and then all of a sudden my body's supposed to know I'm pooping now. I'm not sitting in an office. I'm sitting over here pooping. We have this colon, this sigmoid colon's designed so we can stand up and sit down without poop falling out. It's when we squat and our pelvis tilts that we open up the sigmoid colon and allows, without excessive pushing, allows the stools to be released. If you have a spastic sigmoid colon, then it's very narrow and your poop can't get out unless it's either turned watery, sloppy, or you squat right down and change the posture, which is a really good idea. So it's kind of cool because we've got the excuse now, but we've always had these stools next to the toilets at home so we can get our legs right up. Now we've got kids. We say, it's just for the kids, for the toilet training. But no, man, we've been there.
I've never done that.
Oh, man, you got to. I mean, in most parts of the world. And so especially with people with toilet training, you got to realise how unnatural it is for you to just plop your kid up onto the same chair like you do when he eats dinner and say, now you're pooping.
So you're saying most people don't poop at the dinner table?
No.
Really?
No, do you do that, Steve?
Of course I do.
I thought that was really weird the way you always ask me if you can go to the toilet and then you just don't go anywhere.
It's like
that. Thank you. Dirty, rotten scoundrels.
Yeah, what was that show where that guy was the lifeguard and he says, sorry, everyone out of the pool, the lifeguard's got to take a bathroom break, so all the people got out of the pool, and he just got off the chair and went into the pool and stood there for a while and said, okay, everyone back in the pool now.
I was thinking, that dirty, rotten scoundrel was that Steve Martin or something sit there and goes, may I be excused to use the bathroom? And then they say, yes, and he goes, that's better.
Yes, that's right.
Dodgy. So what I'm telling you, if you've got ribbon poos or if you've got a spastic colon, then you need to go see a chiropractor, get a massage. Don't get a prostate check. They don't need to do that to fix it. And the other, I don't know that anyone try to fix it
Does
structurally
everyone know
inside.
where the prostate is and how to examine it?
It's up to date, but they're not going to fix your sigmoid colon by going that way. What you want to use is muscle relaxants, and you want to change the way your hips and everything function, and you want to get your knees up and actually open out that sigmoid colon properly. There's a herb really good for cramping. It's the bark of a plant. We call it cramp bark. It's absolutely brilliant. So I used to always mix cramp bark in. Anytime I did any sort of a laxative or anything like that, I always used to mix cramp bark in so that we don't get spastic peristalsis. Otherwise, you get spastic peristalsis, you can't get a proper wave. It just kind of cramps here and there, and you don't get a proper wave. And how the hell are you going to push poop through if you're not pushing from one end and all the way through? You're just kind of cramping it and snapping it and breaking it. So you'll see deformed poops if that's happening,
Exactly. And this ties in with getting your diet right and eating more natural plant foods and these sorts of things. And probably some of our audience are prone to eating lots of high protein diets or these sorts of things, or low carb diets. And this is all fine. But, like a couple of spears of asparagus isn't going to break, the bank, and beans and these. So I'm looking at the FODMAP thing here. So you can get, low carbohydrate, high fiber foods in your diet. Just avoid the grains that you have to eat a hell of a lot to get a bit of fiber out of those, and a lot of calories. It's also white and refined.
Yeah, exactly. Go for colour. Go for colour all the time. Hey, what's your thought? Man, I'm just curious to know. Would you tell people if I know you don't love bread, but if someone said multigrain is healthy and wholemeal is not, which would you go for, wholemeal or multigrain?
Well, multigrain has, if you've got those grains in it, they're indigestible. You can get caught in, diverticuli in someone's bowels and that sort of thing. high fibre bread or the whole meal bread.
I know you wouldn't go high fibre white because that's basically
just,
no polyphenols.
That's terrible.
They've taken away all the benefits of it.
I'd probably go the fibre bread, but it's
the wholemeal or multigrain?
Probably the wholemeal.
Yeah, same, man.
Because
I've always said
wholemeal.
wholemeal. A couple of reasons is these seeds. I mean, we need to chew them to be able to break them.
Yeah.
Otherwise, they get stuck in the pockets in the bowel, which are called diverticuli, and grow grain inside you. No, they don't normally because they don't get enough sun. But no, they...
Unless your sun shines out of your ass, and then I guess, you didn't
actually,
think of that, did we?
You have to ask John if he has multigrain. But
I'm not going to speak from experience.
No, I don't have a torch there either. But no, man, because this was always my school of thought was that at least with wholemeal we got the same grains. It's just crushed up into the format where our body can actually utilise some of those polyphenols as opposed to them being stuck into a seed that's going to go straight through.
Straight through and out.
And the rest of it's just white bread with seeds in it.
Irritates the colon on the way through.
And the other thing is of the bread that's left over, excluding the seeds, because the fibre and the wholemeal aspect is part of the seed, they don't actually have to add fibre into the bread. So you basically got white bread with seeds that go straight through or don't go straight through and get stuck, which is worse.
Exactly. And just to summarise, what's a good fibre plant? It's usually plants that grow above the ground because they have to grow structure within the plant to get it, like asparagus. Up. They're erect like a... I can't think of anything that's erect that stands up like about that size.
Not that skinny.
No, there's... Well... Yeah, no.
It's true, Steve. The marathon runners.
Sorry,
I was worried about your endurance, fellas.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. We're all pretty skinny. But so that's where you get your fibre from. Those sort of plants that grow around that have structure in it, like asparagus.
So if you're constipated, if you've got small kangaroo poo, the first thing to look for is water.
Yes.
Make sure you drink an adequate water because you've got dry poop. So add water. Other causes of dry poop would be sluggish thyroid.
Yep.
Is a really common one.
That's a common one, yeah.
Thyroid, everything slows down. So if you're getting slower stools and loss of mucus, then it's possibly that.
Good levels of activity too helps.
Yeah, of course, man. Classic thing, man. Go for a walk on the beach.
Oh yeah.
If you're not regular, go for a walk on the beach. I guarantee the moment you get to the water, you're going to need to poop. Every morning I used to go for a walk on the beach. I'd get up and I used to live on this beach and go down every morning. Every morning I'd just wander on down, get just to where I'm going to start my walk along the water and be like, okay, now I'm going to do my beach sprint to get back to the house.
Did you, or did you go in the water and have an aquaturd?
I love an aquaturd.
Yeah.
What I love about aquaturds more than anything is the lack of gravity creating the snap off. You have that ability.
Yeah.
I have made them so massive. Especially if there's a boat further down. I reckon about there.
Yeah.
I'm imagining the length of my large intestine. So it's like a small child's arm.
All right, okay, that's a good description.
Holding just a peanut.
I hope people aren't listening to this over dinner or something.
Oh, no, they'll be all right. They'll be fine.
Okay.
He's holding an apple then. But so basically, and they will snake. So they don't snap and they go down. And if they're in the current, they will create an actual snake-like action, which people may mistake for a snake, a large brown snake.
Well, there is a brown snake that exists on Earth, the eastern brown.
So. A number 4. And it's really, if you're doing an aquaturd, you really want it to be a number 4. Because, I mean, typically you'll have spectators. And stuff, so you want to impress them. And when you do a good number 4 or a number 3, sometimes on the Bristol Stool chart I'm referring to, if you do a good number 3 or a good number 4, you really want to be able to show someone that.
Well, that's impressive stuff to brag
That's what
about.
I'd put on Instagram. Man, people do food photos. Yeah. Actually, I'm going to do it. I'm changing my Instagram page.
You're going to put a picture
I'm going to do a gut right Instagram page.
Oh, no.
And I'm going to do nothing. I'm just going to put pictures of poops and numbers.
Well, that's what this
and just refer it to the Bristol Stool chart.
Yeah, just say this is a real number 4 or 2.
Yeah.
And
well, they're all number 2s, but it's a 2.1 or a 2.3 or 4.
They are number 2s.
So so let's summarize. So if you're constipated and stuck, make sure it's not stuck like a ribbon, and you need muscle relaxants or massage or chiropractic or prostate checks or anything to get the thing out. Bottle brushes. Make sure that your thyroid's functioning. So if you're getting dry, hard poops, but at the same time you're a chick and you're getting heavier periods and sore boobs, or you're a bloke and you're getting really cold and fat and fluidy. If there's a lot of fatigue, get dry hair, skin, nails, dry everything pretty much, and including dry poops. It may be associated with thyroid. if you've made significant changes to your diet, in particular taking away fibre or adding more fibre, what I want people to do is look to see if you've added too much extra fibre.
Yeah.
Because you may have had a regular bowel with a certain amount of fibre, and now you've added more, and you same time you've reduced the mucus, then you're going to have a dry, hard poop. And also look for things like weak muscles, and not look for it, but just be aware that if you've had this long period of time with alternating constipation, diarrhea, never had really fantastic bowel motions, but then the only time you get a proper void is if you basically give yourself the green apple splatters and eventually just flush it all out.
Yeah.
When we get your shit together, it's a fair chance your muscles are going to be unfit. And it's going to take a lengthy period of time for you to get enough of the fuel to those muscles and for them to get enough exercise pushing against a solid turd to actually get strong.
And it's butyrate too in the gut too.
Yeah.
And also you could have been taking lots of laxatives or having the wrong sort of foods for ages and laxatives without knowing it too. You know, you could just be having quite a herbal tea.
Or overdosing. You know, there's a lot of actual people out there that have got a supplemental program that actually creates watery poops. Like they're taking like for example, if you're one of those people out there that takes 200 or 300 milligrams of magnesium every day, like if you do 300 milligrams of magnesium in a serve, then you're going to have watery poop and leaky gut wall from that. The only time you do that dose is if you need to correct a magnesium deficiency, and that's only temporary. Otherwise, you're creating watery poo. So if you're one of those people that has a heap of water-soluble vitamins, like lots of vitamin C, like more than 250 milligrams or 500 milligrams of vitamin C per serve, you're going to have watery poo.
Yeah, you can.
And if you do that more than once a day, you're actually slowing down your absorption because you're not in a deficient state. So you get a heap of vitamin C, heap of magnesium, heap of these water-soluble stuff, and then you change your protocol, then your poop's going to dry out.
Exactly. And I remember in the olden days of naturopathy, we'd say how much vitamin C you're taking until bowel tolerance was the... You'd have, 6 grams a day. I'd be chewing on these damn tablets. I get the chewable ones. Didn't think about sweeteners or acid in my...
And the reason why it causes the squirts, 2 reasons. One's the osmosis, the movement of the water going into the water to dilute the water-soluble compound.
Yeah.
Secondly, is the excess creates hydrogen peroxide, which irritates the membrane, creating a flushing reaction, like if you drank hydrogen peroxide.
It's a very powerful oxidizing agent, which you often put on wounds to kill bugs. So you don't want that in your gut. You don't want too much hydrogen peroxide in your gut because we want bugs there.
Yeah, no, we want them.
Yeah, it's like people have these scary thoughts. So the diet, if you're going to have a lot of protein, sure, get some of those, nice starchy green vegetables. When I say starchy, the ones that grow, things like the kales.
It's the cellulose and
the cellulose type things, the fibrous things.
The leafy greens and that.
Leafy greens because they have to make a structure.
Yep.
The capsicums are fantastic.
See, like celery is a good example.
It's a brilliant example.
You can see the fibrous strands in the celery that allow it to stand up straight.
Because they grow like that. They're
the
erect.
things you
it's
want
like
to go straight
plant
through.
on Viagra. This is what you've got to... Well, it's a good way to describe it.
It is.
There you go. So,
it is.
So
it might be. Tonkat Ali.
Tonkat Ali.
But so if you're a 5, 6, 7 on the Bristol poo chart and you're not going regularly, that's when we need to really get your poop together. That's when you need to add in the extra fibre. So in the 5, 6, 7 guys, if you've got a tacky, sticky, clay-like kind of poop that you're really struggling to push out, make an ashtray out of it and give it to your mother-in-law. And cut it off with a bit of wire. But no, basically, you're in that instance, what we want to do is we want to use lots of extra soluble fibre and insoluble fibre, in particular insoluble fibre in those sort of looser stools.
Yes.
So in my clinic, I used a lot more roughage and insoluble fibre for loose stools, and I never used it in hard constipated poop. No. But in the general school of thought out in the real world is that if you've got constipated, we need more fibre.
Yeah, no.
And it's going to force it through somehow.
Oh, it's scary, isn't it?
But doesn't it? Backlogs behind it and everything dries out.
Oh.
You get stuck with this big hard plug you can't get rid of.
I know, and then you've got to get rid of it. So I mean, we're almost up to 50 minutes, actually. We're 49.
Oh, yeah.
So we sort of got to summarise it a bit
quality,
now.
mate.
Yeah, it's quality. We've got to try and keep it to 50 minutes. We got
really?
Told.
Is that what we got
that's
told?
What the adult said.
Oh, well, I'm going to waffle a bit then. I don't like being told what to do.
Got to go.
All right,
got to go.
It's going to shit.
We're losing it. All right, guys, have a great day. Thank you. Bye. Bye.